Well, here we are. It's Friday, November 18th, 2022, and this is the weekly video. And this week we're doing it from New Hampshire. I'm up at the house in North Conway. We haven't been up here in a while, so I thought my wife and I came up and get the place checked out for winter. There is snow on the ground up here, which is interesting. And we had a bit of snowfall again last night, so winter's definitely here. Any rate, it's been a busy week. We did a video earlier this week. Many of you have seen it on an auction that's coming up on November 30th by a friend of mine, Carlo Santi, over in Italy. It's his first auction on his own. He's worked for other auction houses, and a couple of you have commented that you're waiting for replies on things. Be a little patient. He's got a lot to deal with, and he's getting his feet under him. I was in touch with him several times during the week to see how things were going, and it's a bit of a learning curve. So just a little patience. He's a good guy, and he'll get it done. All righty, and you can go over to the site. It's linked off the homepage on bid amount, and the sale is there. It's also linked off the newsletter page. But this ad here is a direct link. It's really not an ad. I just put it there for him. We're not being paid for it or anything. I just wanted to do it to help him out because I like him. He's a good guy. All right, so there we are. And what's been going on? Well, there have been some good auctions that took place over on the global member pages and some pretty good buys. It's, of course, one of the advantages of having it is that you can go through and see huge amount of stuff and leave bids. And I know a number of you did because I've heard from you. And some of you got some really good buys this week at a few auctions because you went in and you used the strategy. Look for things that have reasonable to know, have reasonable, very low estimates, and just leave bids. Just leave bids on them and see how it turns out for you. Go an increment above the starting bid. And on a number of occasions, folks have been able to buy the things that they were interested in very reasonably. Relatively speaking. All right, so let's take a look and see what's been going on. We haven't added anything to the bookcase this week because there's no new catalogs or books for us to work with. There are a couple that we're looking at. We're thinking of adding them, but we want to read them first. We like to read the things we put up there because we're interested, okay? But there are 732 books and catalogs on that site right now. Some of you may not know it, but it's searchable. So if you go up here to the upper left-hand corner and you type in, a term, porcelain, jades, bronzes, whatever, it'll go through and pull them all out for you so you don't have to go fishing around too much. All right, now over here, the Wählingwies de Jager sale was finishing up yesterday, I guess it was. They had a sale ran on the 16th and the 17th. It just finished, and they had good results, but they also had some good buys. And one of the pieces that sold, I think, was a very good deal. Was this 36 centimeter wide? Oh, by the way, I got a lot of when I did the video for Carlo's auction. I messed up some of the going from centimeters to inches. I'm in the United States, and we're used to inches and centimeters. The calculations, sometimes I get it a little bit off. I apologize for that. A few of you commented. And I realized it afterwards, but at any rate, I seek your forgiveness on that. All right, now let's see here. On the Wanli plate, this was a bowl rather. This was a good-sized bowl, good-sized Wanli bowl. It wasn't restored, had nothing happened to it. It's 36 centimeters in diameter, which is about 15 or so inches, right, in diameter. Big bowl, big Wanli bowl. And Wanli bowls, like size, don't turn up all that often. This was a nice one, well decorated, had some fritting typically, as you typically see on these around the rim, and it went for $2,905 was the price on it. Not a bad looking piece of porcelain, and it wasn't for a huge amount of money. I think Wanli wares are very good buy, very much under the market these days. Especially the prices don't seem to be climbing at all. They're sort of steady, and if they're not perfect, you can really get a good buy because it takes off about 80% of the value if it's got a chip or a break in it somewhere. All right, and then over to this, the Dalsai. Actually, this isn't really Dalsai. They call it, Wählingwies called it Dalsai. It's but at any rate, it's sort of a Femi-Vert outside color palette. This transitional jar. This was a nice one. Looked absolutely fine. There's the bottom of it. Looks exactly the way it should. Well decorated, good colors, not a lot of wear to it anywhere. The bottom of it looked good. The figures are well done and so forth. It's missing its lid, which they often are, but any rate, it ended up going for just $2,075 US. It had a very low estimate. The estimate was only $600 to $1,200, and as we all know, transitional wares, those of you that have been following it anyway, have been doing very, very well lately in auctions. So I think this was sort of a deal for somebody. But Valiant Weiss took it in with basically probably maybe it had a $400 or $500 estimate, which was reserve, which was very low. And somebody picked it up for $2,000. We've seen pieces like this in the past sell for over $3,000-$4,000. So I think it was a good purchase, a good price point. And then the Kangxi Famiver punch bowl. It was a big bowl. It was a foot in diameter. We talked about it on the global members video when it first was posted a few weeks ago, because I just thought it was terrific. Very, very brightly decorated, very strongly decorated, nice looking figures on a military scene. And it looked like it was in quite good condition all the way around. There's the interior of it. You don't see a lot of wear. You always want to look at the interiors of bowls that have enamels to see how much wear there is. It's a very quick way to get an idea of how much abuse and use it's had over the years. And this one, as you can see, the enamels are still good. There's no wear in the reds. The aubergines aren't chipping, and so forth. Because sometimes you see a little bit of chipping on the enamels, which is not uncommon, but it's better if it doesn't happen, obviously. And the border decoration all the way around was in good shape. This was a nice bowl. Had a fairly strong estimate, 15 to 30,000 euros. It ended up selling for $19,714 US, which is pretty. I think it's pretty much right on the money. These big bowls don't turn up very often in this color palette, and it was very, very pretty piece of porcelain, really pretty. And then this was at the Carl Nordblum sale down here, actually in Massachusetts. I know Carl. I've known him for 30 years. He's a good guy. He gets good auctions. He handles very nice material, American furniture, European furniture, all the stuff you're likely to find in a wealthy Bostonian old money family. And this is just one of those examples. This is a very, very rare Chinese export Hong mug. There are only 3 mugs known. This is by Qi Chong. There are only 3 of these known that have Hong scenes on them. Absolutely rare thing. This one had been on loan to the Peabody Essex Museum for a long time. There's one in a private collection down in the Newport, Rhode Island area. Oh, surprise. And there's another in the, I believe it's in the Metropolitan Museum. And that's it. Made around 1840, about 1840, I guess, somewhere around there. But beautiful quality, absolutely amazing. It has shield on the front, and no monogram was ever added to it, and so forth. It's stamped on the bottom. Here's the other side of it. This was a great Chinese silver. Piece of Chinese silver, really great, and I think it was a bargain. $4,500 for one of 3 Hong mugs in the world. That are known. Okay. It says here the dating on it. They dated the 1840. I was a little off. 1855 was the rough date of it being made, and it was purchased at one of the great old shops in Boston. Those of you that have been in the business for a while will know this shop. It's called Marika's. And it's on Charles Street, and it was originally owned by a very wonderful lady named Marika, and the dealers loved Marika. And her grandson runs it now. He's a good guy, too. But when Marika ran it, she got all the best house calls. She's right at the foot of Beacon Hill in Boston, and she got a lot of great house calls up there over the years for jewelry, Chinese art, Japanese art, fine Satsuma, Netskis, all that stuff. And she was a dealer's dealer. There's a great story once where a dealer I know bought something from her, and he hadn't been able to sell it, and he was trying to raise some money for something. He had some sort of big bill coming in. He was just sort of starting out in the trade, and he went back to her in desperation to sell it back to her because he just needed the money. He needed to bail out of it. And she bought it back from him for more than what he paid her for it after 6 months or so later, because she didn't want him to ever have a loss. And that's the kind of dealer Marika was. She was old school. She was wonderful. Everybody liked her. And this was not surprisingly something that came out of her shop, and I'm willing to bet it came right out of an old Brahmin Boston Hill house up the street on Lewisburg Square or someplace. But if you're ever in Boston, swing by Marika's. It's an interesting place. It's old school. It's great. All right, now over here to this. This was at Dixon's. This was a steal. Somebody got this wonderful raised form teapot circa 1850 for $125. It was 9 inches tall, 10 inches wide from spout to handle. A very nice form. They made these in blue and white. They made them in Famille Rose. They made them in Rose Mandarin, Rose Canton. The form was used in a number of different palettes, but this was a nice one. And it went for $125, and it looked like it was in fine condition. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know for sure, but boy, it looked like a good teapot. And these normally sell in the in the $275 to $400 range. So I think somebody scooped this up very wisely. It only had a couple of bids. It had one starting price of $25, internet bid of $125, and that was the end of it. And a number of the things at Dixon's went reasonably. This was all stuff that was on the global pages, so I hope one of you got it. And this is the rest of the sale. There was all kinds of material in here. And we're going to talk about a couple more of the pieces that he sold because some of them are pretty interesting. This was also in the Dixon sale. This was a pair of fluorite carved phoenixes. And these were really popular back in the 1920s. And people would buy them and have these lamps made for them. You see this pattern often with the metal base and then carved wood stands and then the birds on top. And they made table lamps out of these. Most of these were carved during the late Qing and early Republic period. And fluorite is sort of a quartz material. It looks like jade. And fluorite carvings were very popular among decorators in the United States and in Europe between 1915 and all the way up, all the way up to 1950, I guess. And they turn up periodically. And this was a fairly complex carving. And very nicely done, and would look terrific in your house with a nice shade on them. And they were big. These lamps were 19 inches tall. I don't think the birds were 19 inches tall. I think the lamp was 19 inches tall. So the birds looked like they were about a foot tall, or more. And the two of them went for $425. This was a great buy, and this was again at Dixon's Crumpton Auction House down in Maryland. I thought those were wonderful. Those are so pretty lit too, with the light coming down out of his shade over the carving. And then he had this. This is a plate that you see periodically. I think that we've seen one other in the last year or so. The Ulysses S. Grant Presidential Service plate, and it has this looks like a haddock or a flounder on it, or a halibut and a flounder on it. And this was a service that purportedly that General Grant ordered in the second half of the 19th century. There's a few of these pieces floating around. They're very rare and very, very easy to recognize because I think it's they were never produced in large numbers because it was sort of an unusual pattern. But this set allegedly was in I believe, in the White House. At any rate, somebody picked it up for $2,600, but as a historical porcelain that's recognizable, I think that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty good buy. Very nice. All right, and then over to this teapot that's reticulated from the J.P. Morgan collection. This was also at Malay Brothers down in New Jersey. Let's see here. Where are they? They're in Boonton, New Jersey. I bought from them before. They're good people to deal with. This very nice reticulated, probably Yongchen period teapot in beautiful condition with a provenance to J.P. Morgan, and he did collect this kind of thing. And this is a very elaborately done teapot, beautifully, beautifully enameled, reticulated top, nice clear yellow running around it. It's not too bright. It's not like a hot lemon yellow. It's a softer color. And this violet tone up here is very attractive. and so forth. And somebody paid $4,000 on it. We had this in the global member video as a preview a few weeks ago, and I commented that the estimate is very low, so be prepared for it to go higher. And it did very well, but a rarity, a true rarity. Let's see, it came from a collection on Park Avenue, and it was sold at Sotheby's originally back in last time around in 1984. All right, and then this was also part of the Malay sale. Was this very well known? Those of you who've been around for any length of time will recognize this right away. Qianlong period lotus bowl, and it was in good shape overall. It appeared to be quite nice. I don't see a lot of wear on the edges. I don't see any wear to the gilding in the middle, which is very unusual on these. Often you see lots of scratches and wear in these. This is a very visually appealing type of porcelain. There were a number of these lotus bowls, lotus porcelains in it. I think there was a lotus form teapot as well. And this bowl is not enormous. It's 11 inches in diameter. It's good size, but it's not quite up to the size of a charger made around the. They got the dating right, about 1760. Really nice piece, and I think this was a very good buy, $700. Because if those of you who watch the videos, we've had them before. They've been on eBay, they've been on other sites, and if they're in perfect shape, they often bring between $900 and $1,500. There's a fairly wide price range on them. It depends whose eyeballs get laid on it. And then this was a bargain. Kisi works are always in demand, and this was a nice 19th century silk Kisi panel of a boy. It was 18 inches wide and 43 inches long, and it looked to be in quite nice shape. Nice colors. This is a color palette. You see these browns and tans and so forth. Colors were very popular in the second half, late 19th century. But this was a nice looking Kisi. And Kisi work is really just it's applied bits of silk that they put down. And it's almost like not decoupage, but they use areas of cutouts and apply them and so forth. And this one is nicely done all the way through. Beautiful edging here, and a lot of fine needlework added to it, and they sort of trace the thing onto the silk, and then they apply the silk into it. This was a good one, and Kisi works usually bring, like the estimate said, $1,000 to $1,500. And if this had gone for $2,000, I wouldn't have been at all surprised, given what we've seen Kisi panels sell for in the past. This one just went for $800. I have no idea why. It looked like it was in good shape, and I think it just fell through the cracks. I think literally it just fell through the cracks. It only had a couple of bids, $700 starting bid, $750, $800 done. All right, and the shipping, of course, on these is peanuts because they tend to, you can just roll them up in a tube. But that was one of the great artistic deals of the week. And there was the Hirado reticulated Goyo. The Hirado kilns, of course, in Japan began their existence making porcelain for the imperial family on the island of Hirado, and they were known for this extremely fine work in porcelain. They had a clay or a kaolin that was very easy to work with. It held its shape during the firing process. You could reticulate it. You could apply all these little petals and everything. And when it heated in the kiln, it all just didn't collapse. It stayed where they put it. And this was a feature of Hirado ware. And eventually it became very, very popular because the emperor's family was buying it, and then other well-to-do individuals ended up buying it. It became very much a status thing to own Hirado. And this was a nice one. It was missing a couple of petals, but other than that, it looked fine. And it went very reasonably. It was $750. It had a low estimate, $400 to $600, which was artificially, I think, low. And we've seen these in auctions before, and sometimes they bring $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 even for a big reticulated example. This one wasn't enormous, but it was good size. It was 9.5 inches tall. Good one. And then this was at Malay Brothers. So those of you that are interested in China trade paintings, this was attributed. It was sold. It was done by they call it attributed to Spoilum. And Spoilum was the first Chinese painter to paint really in the Western style, working in oils. And his grandson became I think it was Sun Qua or Fuquo. One of his grandsons became a famous China trade painter years later. But this fellow was active in the late 1700s and early 1800s, and he was known for painting merchants in the Hongs. He painted European American merchants, and he painted Chinese merchants, silk merchants, and porcelain merchants, and tea merchants. And he charged $10 a picture back then, and or 15, something like that. It's a very low price. But this one was sold. This one was sold. It came out of Martin Gregory in London, who was a highly influential art dealer over there, who specialized in China trade paintings of all kinds, Hong paintings, early works on paper, and so forth. And this was something that he had apparently sold years ago. Very rare painting. Really, really rare. Spoilum is one of the most highly sought after of all the Chinese Hong paintings, Hong Hong painters. And he worked with the East India Company doing their officers and all that. And it was estimated at a very low price, 5,000 to 7,000, and it sold for just 15,000, which I think was a very good deal. This is a very rare painting. It's 17 inches tall, 13 and a half inches wide, and done by the first Chinese painter to work in oils in the Western style, clearly in the Western style. This was the manner that you see most English and French, paintings of portraits done in the 18th century. Very nicely done. And then the Mei Ping vase, they called it a tulip vase, close enough. Famille Rose, 18th century. They dated it to around 1775. Again, had a very low estimate, $600 to $800, which, those of you out there that buy these know that it was going to be more than that. But it took off. It did fine. In the end, it brought $5,000, and it wasn't an enormous vase. It was 9 inches tall. It wasn't, 14 or 15 inches small, but beautifully decorated. All overglazed enamels, overglazed blue enamels, the pinks, and all this other business. And very, very attractive piece of porcelain. And it had these little like spouts coming off the side, sort of an unusual form, and ended up going for $5,000. All right. And then over to this was, this just finished. This just closed today. This was the Jeffrey Evans auction that's on the global pages, and somebody got a steal. I don't know why this happened. We saw this a few weeks ago with hunt bowls, brought almost, under $1,000, which is unheard of. Back in the 90s, a hunt bowl like this would have sold for $3,000 to $5,000 pretty easily. This was a good-looking one. Maybe it was restored. I don't know. I don't see any areas that look like it's been restored. Could have been done by a pro. But overall, it looks like it's in very nice condition. It's not an enormous one. It isn't one of these 18 or 20-inch ones. It's 11 inches in diameter. But it's a hunt bowl. And English market hunt bowls are and always have been pretty rare birds. And this was a nice one. And somebody picked it up for $650. That's a good deal. And then there was this. This was a great deal. This was a lot of several pieces, including this very nice early 18th century Famille Rose and underglazed blue mug in a bell form, a gravy boat based on an English silver form, and then a teacup and saucer. All in Famille Rose. All of this was 18th century. Maybe they were restored. I don't see any signs of restoration, and they look like they're in very nice shape. And somebody picked up the whole lot for $60, which was very, very reasonable. Very reasonable. As you know, the gravy boats of this type typically sell in the $300 to $400 range. The mug sells in the $300 to $400 range, and the cup and saucer sells, for $100, $125 each. And somebody picked up the whole lot for $60. And this is why I always say, leave a bid. Leave a bid. It was estimated very modestly at $100 to $200. I'm assuming there must have been some sort of restoration in them, but still, they looked great. They were wonderful examples. They were fine examples, and they were a bargain. No matter how you cut it. And then over to this was the material culture sale that took place on the 15th, just a couple of days ago. They had a lot of good silks in there, and this was the best silk they had, I guess. It was a very nice one, a 19th century robe, beautifully done dragons with this skirt panel across the bottom, which you often see, as I mentioned in the Global Members video a few weeks ago. This panel, you've seen it before. They often would, when the robe was worn out and not in great shape, they often would save achieved what they could by cutting off this lower section and turning it into a wall hanging, or putting you find them in frames. And there's actually a set of 4 of these coming up in an eBay sale that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And this was a nice robe. Had what's expected, a little bit of discoloration around the collar from wear. The sleeves had these beautiful dragons on them. Nice early robe, nice early 19th century robe. Sold for $17,000 plus the premium. So that was a very lovely example. And again, Chinese silks are really holding up in the Chinese art market. Even when things are, a few other areas are, Chinese export wares have gotten a bit softer, which presents a good buying opportunity, silks have remained very strong. It's really interesting to me. All right, and then over to eBay. We talked about this painting last week. It was up to $1,000 or so last Friday. This is a really rare painting. I had mentioned Martin Gregory in relation to that Spoilum painting earlier, and this was handled by, was it Spoilum or Spinks handled this? Roger Cavern handled this. Another one of the major English dealers. You remember they did the Cavern sale at Christie's a few years ago when he retired, and this was something he had handled. An absolutely outstanding Chinese export watercolor, circa 1800 or so, 1800, 1810. Very nice example. Beautiful, beautiful colors. The details, the creases in the silks, this sort of thing. Even the bottoms of the shoes show the stitches. This is what they were capable of. They could do some phenomenal paintings. And this was a great one. And I don't think it brought too much money at all. It brought $3,900. If it had sold for $8,000 or $9,000, I would have said, yeah, just look at the painting. It's based on the art. Always about the art and the quality. And the quality of this thing was just amazing. It was one of the best ones we've seen in a few years, by far. Absolutely a great painting. And I think it was sold for a very reasonable price, given what it is. And the same seller had this. I think it was the same seller, right? Great Lake Antiquing out in Michigan. Apparently, somebody contacted me. I wanted to mention something. Great Lake Antiquing. If you're seeing this, one of your bidders you blocked. And he was pretty upset. He wrote me an email, and he was trying to bid on this at the end, and he was blocked because he was fairly new to eBay, more than well in a position to pay for it, apparently. And for some reason, you blocked him. You block bidders at your own risk. And I can see blocking bidders from China, newly minted bidders from China sometimes. But I don't believe this guy is in China. I believe he's a U.S. buyer. And he was pretty upset that he didn't get this. And I think you probably cost yourself a few $1,000 by blocking his bid. He had bid earlier on it, and he came back to bid on it later. And you had blocked him, which is too bad. But I can understand the reasons because of non-payment issues, but be very selective on who you block, okay? Because you could shoot yourself in the feet that way. It's bad enough because eBay sometimes blocks bidders because of their what they call frantic bidding algorithm. At the end, we had an incident once where we had an item that sold for around $100,000 on here, and eBay blocked three bidders at the very end who I found out would have pushed the bidding up another 15 or 20,000. Very frustrating. Let stuff run, okay? Unless it's from a buyer in mainland China that's had multiple usernames, and don't worry about blocking them. Because they do. Some buyers in China have 5, 10, 20, 30 eBay accounts, and they get blocked for non-payment and other problems. And they just switch to another account because they all get reactivated after a year or so. So they sort of cycle through them. It's a problem eBay never wants to address. All right, now over to this, the bronze brush pot with the deer on it. I talked about this last week because I just thought it was so nice. I think it was at $20 or something last Friday. The bottom of it had been knocked out, the base is missing, and there's other issues. But boy, it's a nifty looking piece of metalwork. The deer appears to be, one of them appears to be in silver. I can't really tell for sure, or is it polish? But the relief work of the deer, recumbent deer around the base is charming, and the Greek pattern and all this, and it was nice patina in the metal, and it did fine in the end. It ended up selling for $436, which is a pretty good price for something that's missing its bottom. But it was just a nice object, and it wasn't enormous. I think it was what, 4 inches tall or something. 5 inches, 5 and 8/8 inch tall. It was pretty small, but very nice quality. Very, very nice quality. And then this was something that Rufe sold. He had several of these plates up, and this one did very well. Kangxi period, probably, let's see the bottom of it. Yeah, or Qinlong period. Nice looking plate, though. Very nice pattern. Ended up selling for a significant price, $2,259. He had a couple of others that had a little bit of damage to them, little chips and whatnot. One of them he had a bite out of the rim, but he had one, I think, with a hairline in it, and ended up selling for $700 or $800. But this one apparently was perfect and did very well, $2,259. But a good piece of Chinese porcelain, very attractive. And then we had this. This was the cloisonné vase, 15.5 inches tall. Nice looking vase. I liked it. It had soft pinks in it. I liked the green deer. I liked the rocky outcropping, and it was good size. Here's a picture of the bottom. Pretty much a straight up 19th century example, from what I can see. Good cloisonné work all the way through. Here and here, and let's see, how did it do? $950. Not a bad price. That was a very favorable. I think pretty favorable towards the buyer, because it could have brought more. It could have brought $1,500 or $2,000 maybe, something like that. All right, and then this is coming up. This closed. This one is coming up. You're going to look at a couple of lots that are going to be in the newsletter page this week over in Bitamount. If you don't know where that is, go over to bitamount.com. This is this past week's page, and it's right here under the newsletter page, and it's free, and you can sign up for it. If you want to sign up, give us your email address, and when we update it each Friday, we'll send you an email as soon as the page is updated, because it gets updated at varying times in the afternoon on Fridays, typically sometime between 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening, depending on how well we're getting things done around here. This is just a few of the stuff that's coming up this week, and one of them is this painting. This is from Nafisa. He's over I believe he's in the UK, right? Yeah, Kent. A nice portrait, circular fan portrait type of painting, inscribed, but very nice painting quality. Very, very, Chinese beauties. They love to paint them. She has an absolutely charming expression on her face. She's clutching a little cluster of flowers. Nice details on the robes, and overall the composition here is very appealing. She has some flowers down here in a bowl, and she's holding one, and she's plucked a few out of the rocks, and then you have this blossoming tree around her, and it's obviously old. It's got a little bit of staining and a slight bit of age discoloration, but overall, it makes a very pleasing picture. And right now, it closes in 6 days. It'll be on the newsletter page. It's up to $6.48. Now, it'll do better than that. It'll probably get up to $400 or $500 or so. But this is a nice-looking picture. And I would, if you like paintings, you're interested in Chinese paintings, this is a good one. It's 19th century. You might want to pursue that. And also this is an interesting bronze. Who's the seller on this? Petra 40 Cat. Had him before. He's over in the UK, and there's this very nice bronze. This is an old bronze. By the form and shape, it looks like it's an early Qing example. I don't think it's Ming, but I do think it's Qing. And it looks like it's almost made out of bell metal, because they use different alloys. They're always mixing around with alloys and trying different things when they did their metals. I didn't look up the mark yet, but the Fu lions are nicely done. This looks absolutely legitimate to me. There are ages of you can see from polishing, because there are places where they kept things polished. They polished bronzes, and this is a nice looking one. The interior of it's pretty grungy from burning stuff in it. That doesn't look like they've been burning incense in it. It looks like maybe they were burning something else. But the form is nice, nice rounded edges. I like the composition. I really like this. And I don't. This is not a modern copy. This is an old one, probably 17th or 18th century, from what I'm seeing. It's up to $300. It closes on Tuesday, and it should bring this type. We've actually sold them before, and they bring typically $1,500 to $2,500, depending on who's after it. But that's sort of the price range. Nice looking thing. Now this is that thing I was talking about with the four framed, the dragon panels like you see on the robes. Here are four of them, all framed. They are, how big is the biggest one? 29 inches wide. So these are pretty good size. These are pretty good size. They're all framed. Nicely framed, actually. Nice old frames on them. And the silks all look to be in pretty good shape. This is a nice thing. This is a good lot if you want to decorate with it. And for some mysterious reason, this closes tomorrow. And it's coming from a San Francisco collector. I don't know him, I don't think. Obviously in California. $30 shipping from there to Massachusetts, according to this, which is a bargain. $56. This should bring, these should bring 2,000 or 3,000. So I think this is a relative bargain at the moment. I think it's going to jump. I suspect it will. But right now it's at $56. And these panels routinely sell for, $4 to $600, $500 to $700 a piece. And they're not, and that's when they're not framed. These are framed. These are framed, so you're looking at about $1,000 or more of framing here. Actually, more than that. The frames here would probably run you. I always take into account. I know some of you think it's funny, but I always take into account the value of the frames because if you're going to frame these, it's going to cost you money. And these frames look pretty nice. Maybe just give them a quick cleaning if you want. $400 a frame. So you got $1,600 worth of frames, and you got $4,000 or $2,000 to $2,500 worth of silk. So it's about a $4,400, $4,500 situation here. And I would go in and clobber this thing with bids if I was looking for some nice silks to hang. And these would look great hanging in a library or in a hallway or in a dining room or in a living room or any room. These would be fabulous. Just hang them away from bright sun. That's all, away from direct sun. Nice looking objects. And then this, the Celadon incense burner. It's Ming. This is Migolari's got this up. This is a nice Ming incense burner. Here's the bottom of it. It's exactly how it should look. A little bit of legitimate wear there on the tootsies, on the feet. And the interior looks fine to me. The outside looks fine. It's all carved. Nice quality. Good quality incense burner. It's about, how big was it? 13 centimeters in diameter? Something like that. Oh, no, it's bigger, 24 centimeters. So it's about 8.5 inches in diameter. Okay, good. Good size. It's up to just $200. It closes on Sunday. Should end up at $1,200 to $1,500. But right now, that's where it is. So, go in and drop a bid on it. See if you get lucky. All right. And then lastly is this. This is a rare little teapot. Now, on the global pages, we posted one of these quite similar in appearance. These Belform Yixing lined pewter teapots, and then with the carved decoration in the pewter, jade handles, jade lid, jade spout. These are teapots. Everybody knows they made lots of pewter in China, but plain pewter is not terribly valuable. But when you put a clay liner made of Yixing inside of it here, and this one is stamped by the maker and stamped on the bottom again. This is a very nice. Oh no, that's a negative of the interior. What he did was he sharpened it. That's what he did. Okay, it's not on the inside. That's on the not on the outside. That's on the inside. But at any rate, it's a nice form. It looks like it's in good condition. I don't see any mention of any severe damage. It may have a line right there. I'm not sure. You want to check with them on that. But boy, this looks like a good teapot, and they're rare. And it should bring, $1,400 to $2,000. It closes on Monday. This is US 213 Haru out in Ohio. He's a good dealer. had his things on here many times. Send him a note and ask him what condition the liner's in if you're interested. If it's cracked, that drops the value quite a bit. But if it's not broken anywhere and the liner is in good shape, then this is a very fine example. And it's a 19th century example, absolutely early 19th century. And the reason they put clay liners in them, if you didn't know, was that it is believed in China that, and it's not just believed, it's true. Good Yixing, when you use it for the same tea all the time, it enhances the flavor of the tea. It makes the tea taste better. It makes it taste smoother. And people, when they get Yixing teapots that are new, they will season them in a pot of boiling water that has a tea in it that they're planning to be drinking out of it. So if you're a tea aficionado, you have a different Yixing teapot for each variety of tea. So if you go to somebody's house who's a big tea fan, you may find they've got 20 or 30 or 50 different teapots, depending on how many varieties of tea they like, and often Yixing, because Yixing clay is the real connoisseur's way to drink tea. Porcelain, no. In England, when some of the first teapots shipped into Europe from China were Yixing wares by the Dutch East India Company, and the reason was that they were so ideally suited for tea. And when they began doing pewter, the potters began doing liners inside of these pewter pots of Yixing for that reason. So, long story short, that's what it is. All right. That's about it for the week. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We do these every Friday, and we usually do a video or two in the middle of the week. And lately, we've been doing a few shorts when we can. I was hoping to do them try to do one a day, but I don't have the time. We have so many different things we're doing and preparing videos and working on the sites and doing our regular business. I just don't have but we're going to probably do one over the weekend too. We did one this week on bronzes, which was sort of interesting, the history of early bronzes and sort of the mysterious trail on why. I asked the question, why, when did they begin doing bronzes? Because in Chinese culture, everything they use in material went through long periods of evolution, anywhere from 1,000 years to 20,000 years in the case of, to get to porcelain from pottery, and why the development of bronze came on so rapidly. One year they had it literally, and one year they didn't have it, and next year they did, and they were producing huge objects, it seems. And there's very little written, and it's an interesting question because bronzes are quite difficult to make technically, especially the early ones. The Shang bronzes in particular were very complicated deals to make, making molds for them, carving the clay molds and doing all the work, and then melting the metals, getting the temperatures exactly right so it didn't have a problem in the when they were heating it, and they didn't have thermometers, so it was a real trick. But at any rate, the topic of bronzes is an interesting one, and metalworks in general in China is a very interesting one. So anyway, that's it. Have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and we'll be back next week. And if you don't see me before then, have a great Thanksgiving with your families. All right, or friends, or wherever you are. All right, and if you're overseas, you're missing out on a turkey dinner. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.